Australian reporting there. Jonathan Schanzer is Senior Vice President of Foundation of Defense of Democracies. He's usually based in Washington but's been travelling and speaking to officials in the Middle East. He joins us from Dubai. Welcome to you. What are those you've been speaking to in the region making of the split that's emerging between the Trump administration and Congress on how to deal with Saudi Arabia?
Well, I would say that they're really not willing to talk about it much at all. What they would like to do is to move past this. I think they would readily admit that mistakes have been made by the Saudi government. They don't seem to want to link this to the Crown Prince himself, but are very satisfied with the way that the Saudis have explained what has happened. And I think at this point they're just ready to move on, but are hoping that they get the support from the United States to continue to finish up the job in Yemen, as they would describe it, in taking care of the Houthis and ridding Iran from the region.
Right, so the murder of Jamal Hajji doesn't seem to have had or is going to have any discernible effect on Saudi Arabia's relationships with its allies. It's going to be business as usual.
That's right. Certainly around the Gulf, I think that there's an inclination to just rally around the Crown Prince. I think the real question right now is to what extent this will shake the relations with the United States. There certainly is concern about that here right now. They're certainly very hopeful that the United States will go along the lines of what the Trump administration has outlined. But of course, what we're hearing out of Congress right now is that what has been done so far, these Magnitsky human rights sanctions and the withdrawal of support from Yemen, was not enough. And I think that's cause for concern here in the region.
What do you make of the argument from the Trump administration? We've heard it from James Mattis and Mike Pompeo that getting involved in punishing Saudi Arabia effectively now would derail any peace efforts for Yemen taking place at the moment, and they're on the cusp of a breakthrough.
Well, what we're hearing actually here right now is that Hudaydah is the key, that if they can basically conquer Hudaydah and gain a little bit of leverage over the Houthis, then they're willing to go to Sweden and engage in this UN process. But they feel that they just don't have enough leverage right now to arrive at a solution that would please the Gulf states in particular. And so that's the argument that we're hearing from here, that they just simply need a little bit more time. Of course, we don't know how much time that would be. It could be weeks, it could be months, and that will certainly be frustrating to the American Congress.
I mean, how much momentum do you think there is from Congress, those senators who say it is time to send Saudi Arabia a message both on its violations of human rights and the humanitarian catastrophe in Yemen?
Well, look, I think we're dealing with two separate issues. There's the question of Khashoggi, and I think that if they want to try to find ways to punish the Saudis further, they should be focusing on that specifically. The idea of punishing the Saudis by forcing them to stand down in Yemen is a little bit of cutting off their nose to spite their face, as we would say. That what they're basically doing is putting Saudi in a weaker position, potentially making Iran stronger at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and that is not necessarily in American interest in the long term.
You mentioned that particular strait. Just explain for us the geographical importance of that particular strait and why it impacts on the ability to bring this conflict to an end.
So what we're talking about here is the Horn of Africa, and how it's really an incredibly tight space where I think roughly 5% of world oil travels through via the Suez and beyond. And so this is an area that's also very close to Hudaydah. Hudaydah is just north of that. And so if the Iranians are able to remain in Yemen, remain in Hudaydah through their Houthi presence, they could have significant influence over this waterway. And what we're really trying to do is to lessen Iranian influence around the region. That's why this may be important to give the Saudis enough time. I think it is in our interest to end this war. We want to see it end quickly because of the suffering, but we can't give up strategic assets while we do so.
Jonathan Schanzer, in 10 seconds, your prospects for peace in Yemen anytime soon, what do you think?
I think it really depends on how much leverage they get over the Iranians and the Houthis. Right now, there's very little.
Jonathan Schanzer, thank you very much, from the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, talking to us from Dubai. Thank you very much for watching BBC World News. I'll be back in a few minutes' time.